Hi, it's July 25th. This is the BAM Weekly Muni Market Update here with Grant Dewey from BAM's Capital Markets Desk. I'm Mike Stanton. Grant, thanks for taking some time.
Hey, Mike.
So another week where the focus was on the primary, maybe not as much volume as we've seen other weeks so far this year. What kind of activity did you see?
Well, yeah, I'd say it was kind of moderate given what we've seen over the last few months, but primary issuance was around $7.5 billion. Dollars was pretty solid demand, especially on the larger issues. Institutionally, insurance penetration remains strong as buyers are staying pretty selective. We also had a very active week in the secondary institutionally. So, all in all, a good week. Treasury market was, mostly range bound. The yields were drifting slightly lower midweek. The Fed meets, FOMC meets next week. And so I think no one really expects any sort of movement in the July meeting. They meet again in September, and I think the consensus is that we may get a cut there. There actually isn't consensus with the Board of Governors. There are two governors, Waller and Bowman, who are advocating for a 25 basis point cut at this meeting. So it's you don't see dissent very often there, but there is. So there's an outside chance we'd see a cut.
And it's interesting, you don't seem to see a lot of issuers steering clear of next week's new issue calendar. Last I checked, it was just over $10 billion of primary market deals scheduled to come, despite that Fed meeting. Previously, earlier in the cycle, you definitely saw issuers avoiding Fed weeks because they were worried about volatility. Right now, that there does seem a pretty strong consensus. There won't be a change this week, and so the issuers are coming in.
Right. You've got, I think we're slated for up around $9 billion this next week. That's led by $1.5 billion Washington state GOs. There's a couple other smaller healthcare deals, including $200 million Mount Sinai Health that Jefferies is pricing. We're taking a look at that one, and but generally, like summer reinvestment continues to be strong. So the tone in the market is okay. The one thing I'll point out is that muni ratios with all the supply have continued to be very attractive on the long end. Right now, munis are yielding AAA munis about 95% of treasuries, and so that's definitely in the higher end of the range. And you start seeing crossover buying in and around these levels.
That's a great point. And it also was good for mutual fund cash flows from retail investors. After a 1 week of outflows last week, Lipper did report about $500 million of inflows this week. So those absolute yields and the taxable equivalent yields still attracting retail investors to the market. On the BAM new issue side, I know the higher education sector is really in the spotlight last week and this coming week. Last week, $67 million transaction for Cleveland State University was the largest deal. That was priced by Stifel. And looking ahead to the coming week, Northeastern Illinois University will be in the market. That's about $52.5 million, also priced by Stifel. So we'll see how those transactions go. I know there's a lot of school activity out there also. This is the season for schools across Ohio and California, a couple of states where BAM is historically active, so we'll be watching those transactions. Anything else, Grant?
I think you covered it, Mike, and we continue to have sort of a very, very busy summer in the market, which is a nice surprise.
Yeah, it's hot as heck here in New York today. We'll see if the dog days are coming. They're not here yet. Thanks for your time.
All right, take care.